This week's case is about money, Batman collectibles, and lots of greed. So, let's get started. Hello everyone, my name is Brandy, and if you are new here, every Friday I bring you a true crime case or mystery with one or more of my fabulous felines. For my returning subscribers, welcome back my feline friends, and a big shout out to my feline fans who help support this channel. So yes, I am in a different place recording today. My husband is home on vacation, and he is in the middle of a very big Xbox battle. And being a fellow gamer myself, I don't want to disturb that by telling him to stop playing. So I'm going to film in my office. And as always, if a cat walks by, I will make sure that they get on camera. I don't have any around me right now. And also, next week, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to do a video. I need to get caught up on some other things. I need to get caught up on the Meet the Felines videos. We still have like 8 cats to go. And, you know, life and holidays and family. So, no video next week. But we'll be back after that with a doozy. So, let's talk about Ben Novack Jr. Now, you may have known this case because there was a movie made about it with Rob Lowe, and it made national news because Ben Novack Jr. was a millionaire. So let's start with some little history first. So Ben Novack Jr., who went by Benji because his dad was actually Ben Sr., he was born January 19th, 1956. to Bernice and Ben Sr. Now, Ben Sr. was a very successful owner of a bunch of hotels, and he actually was behind the building of the famous Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, Florida. Now, Bernice Novack was a former model, and she did some work for the Coca-Cola company, so she was a very pretty lady. Now, Ben Sr. was married at the time to his first wife, and he was having an affair with Bernice. Now, Ben Sr. and his first wife actually had an adopted son, and then Ben Sr. left his first wife and got with Bernice and married her, and then Benji was born. And after Benji was born, Ben Sr. kind of ignored his adopted son after that. So it was kind of sad. So Benji grew up in this famous Fontainebleau Hotel with, you know, celebrities and everything, and spent most of his childhood in the penthouse. Now, even though the family did end up losing the hotel in 1978, the family continued to, you know, be rich. And Benji still grew up very comfortable and in the presence of lots of celebrities like, you know, JFK, Elvis. Now, Ben Sr. and Bernice did end up divorcing, and he, of course, remarried somebody else. But Bernice was still a big part of her ex-husband's like business and all of his art dealings and everything like that. But in 1985, Ben Sr. ended up dying of a heart attack, and that then left everything to Benji. Now, Benji loved Batman and, you know, other comic related items, but most of his, you know, comic book collection and memorabilia was around Batman, and a little bit of Coca-Cola because of his mother's history. Now, he had this huge, massive collection of Batman things that he's accumulated over the years. But to give you an idea of how large his Batman collection was, is that his Batman collection, just his Batman collection, I'm not talking about all the other collectibles he may have, just his Batman collection, filled 4 of 6 warehouses that was on his property. Come here, baby. Oh. Herschel's? Say hi, Herschel's. Say hi, and I want to go lay down. That's why I'm walking over Mom's computer. There you go, buddy. Okay, anyway, so his Batman collection filled like 4 of 6 warehouses on his property. And it was actually considered the second largest collection in the entire world. So you can imagine how much this was worth. Now, in his collection, his prized possession piece was a replica of the 1960s Batmobile, and he showed off regularly. And they say it was actually made from the same model as the Batmobile in the movie. So he was very proud of that piece. Now, many people actually didn't like Benji. Many stated that, when he was a kid, that he was like a spoiled brat because his mom and dad doted on him and gave him everything because he was, well, the only child, so to speak. And as he grew up, he just went from a spoiled brat to, I guess, becoming an asshole. Now, he did keep to himself, but when people did interact with him, he would come across as kind of like very gruff, like almost like as a bully. Especially when he was, dealing with somebody that wants to sell him a collectible. He got very gruff with negotiating prices. Benji was also known to be like a playboy. He frequented strip clubs. He spent a lot of money on, call girls, stuff like that. And he was into some kinky stuff, like bondage. When he was in his 20s, he met a exotic dancer named Narcy, and the two actually married in 1991. Now, Narcy was a native of Ecuador, and she was a single mother to a daughter named May from a previous relationship. Now, Narcy and her daughter, they kind of came from poverty. They weren't used to life of luxury and everything. But, it didn't take long for them to settle right in, and Narcy especially, got really attached to her new life. Now, Benji earned his money by being in the hotel business as well, but his was a little different. Instead of, opening and running hotels, he actually would set up conventions at hotels and manage them. And when we say that, we're talking about major conventions here. So, he not only, yes, inherited some money from his father, but he was almost like a self-made millionaire as well. Now, when Narcy and Benji got married, Narcy would start helping with Benji's business. And then when May got to be an adult, she started helping with the business as well. So the family just worked the family business. Now, later, May would kind of complain to people that Narcy stopped doing her job. May had to do her job and Narcy's job. Even though May was doing, both jobs, that Narcy would take credit for doing her part of the job. So it was like Narcy would go play, May would work, and Narcy would take credit for everything. Way to go, Mom. Thanks. Now, Benji and May, they actually bonded over his Batman collection, and they became very close. And Benji really looked at May like his daughter, and he doted on her and treated her like she was his own. Now, Narcy, she kind of was jealous of this relationship. Not sure why. I mean, if I married a guy and I had a kid, I'd want them to bond like my, father and daughter, but that's just Narcy. She was a jealous woman. Overall, his marriage to Narcy anyway was a rocky one. Now, Benji wasn't exactly faithful. He had a couple affairs in the marriage, and he would often still attend the strip clubs and, hire the call girls. Now, in 2002, police arrived at Benji's house to find him tied up and kind of beaten. And when they, untied him and asked him what happened, he stated that Narcy had broken into the house with some men, tied him up, and kind of beat him up. And he was left tied up for 25 hours. He stated that, they threatened to kill him and threatened to set the house on fire. And he also said that he noticed there was up to $300,000 of money that was missing. But in the end, he declined to press any charges. So Narcy didn't get in trouble for that. Now, Narcy also had her grievances. She would allege that her and Benji got in a fight one time, and Benji had hit her and actually broke her nose. And she went to see a plastic surgeon in order to correct the damage from the broken nose. And when she got put under for the surgery, when she woke up, not only was her nose fixed, but she had breast implants as well that she never requested. She would then blame Benji for bribing the doctor to, put them in while she was under. Now, at one point, Benji did file for divorce. He had had enough, but later he rescinded that after Narcy and him apparently reconciled. So, yeah, to say that their marriage was rocky was a big understatement. Now, in April 2009, tragedy struck. Benji's mom, Bernice, was found dead in her home. Now, Benji and Bernice were very, very close. Benji called her every day. And, of course, Narcy and Bernice never really got along. Because, again, Narcy was jealous of the relationship Benji had with his own mother. I know, crazy. The life of a jealous woman, I guess. But anyway, her body was found in the laundry room, and after, investigations, it appeared that she had fallen and hit her head. The problem with this is if you look at the crime scene photos, she didn't just fall in the laundry room. She fell in the garage, she fell in the bathroom, and she fell in the laundry room. And there was like blood everywhere. And they stated that she fell, hit her head, and that in the end it was ruled an accident because of head trauma is how she died. Now, Benji was heartbroken, and he was questioning this as well as his Bernice's other family, like her sister, Benji's aunt. Like, it was like something isn't right here. Now, Benji was walking through the house after Bernice's death. He stated that he saw a glass of white wine on the table, and he told investigators that that's odd because my mom doesn't drink white wine. She never has. So they just kind of noted it and went on, and in the end, everything was ruled an accident. So now, Benji, of course, and his family had these doubts, and everybody was kind of looking to Benji to, do something about it. So Benji was actually planning on going to the police and kind of pushing them for a better investigation about what happened to his mom. But unfortunately, he would be gone before he had a chance to do that. Now, a mere 3 months after Bernice's death, in July of 2009, Benji was organizing a very large Amway convention in New York at a hotel there. Now, Narcy, Benji, and May would attend these conventions in order to oversee them, so they would stay the night at the hotels as well. Now, the morning of July 12th, Narcy stated that she left their room about 7 a.m. to go have breakfast down in the lobby restaurant. She said she returned about 40 minutes later, and when she walked into the hotel room, she found Benji face down on the floor, and there was blood everywhere, and that his hands and feet were bound in duct tape. Benji had been beaten to death, and it was so bad that they even gouged his eyes out. Authorities, of course, arrived on the scene, and they started questioning Narcy as the witness, and Narcy stated that when she left the hotel room, Benji was alive. So what authorities could determine, however, is that at 6:54 a.m., Benji was alive because they did a wake-up call to the room, and Benji was the one answered. So the person at the front desk did talk to Benji. What they couldn't determine is really how long Benji was alive after that. Now, there were several pieces of very expensive jewelry and cash in the room that weren't taken. The only thing that was actually missing was that Benji had a bracelet, a gold bracelet, and it spelled out his name, Ben, in diamonds. And that was the only thing that Narcy said was missing. So they kind of ruled out theft as a motive. So as the police are investigating, that the first thing they notice is that hotel room door wasn't kicked in or tampered with. Their question was how did they get in? So they had the hotel run a history on all the key cards that were able to get into that room, and they noticed that the last few times that the key card was used was at midnight the night before, when Narcy and Ben got back to the hotel room, and then it was not used again until 7:40, and that's when Narcy had gotten back from breakfast. So nobody went into the hotel room between midnight and 7:40. They also noticed that, according to the way Benji's body was and everything, that he was actually attacked while he was asleep. So they were very doubtful that Benji got up, let somebody in the hotel room, and then went back to bed. Narcy would state that, maybe, when she left at 7 a.m., maybe the door didn't latch all the way. But, after kind of testing the door, it would close every time. So that wasn't the case either. And of course, the police straight out asked Narcy if she had anything to do with her husband's death, and she of course said absolutely not. So Narcy and May, after everything, returned to their home in Florida. Now, 2 days later, police were called to Benji's estate, where Narcy and May were still living. Now, apparently what had happened is a fight broke out between Narcy and her daughter May. It had gotten so bad that Narcy had grabbed a crowbar and attacked May with it and hit her in the arm, gave her a pretty bad bruise, until neighbors were able to break it up. Now, May was an adult with 2 teenage sons by this time, and she was living on like a cottage on the estate grounds. So whatever the fight was about was not put in the police report, but what was put in the report is May agreed that she was going to move off the estate grounds with her teenage sons. Now, after this, Narcy had pretty much cut May off. So May wasn't a part of the business anymore. She was living in an apartment with her 2 sons, and she was pretty much now destitute. She was hurting for money. Now, at one point, the main detective in this case on Benji's murder had gifted May like $5,000 to help her out to find an apartment and everything. And he then had to resign because it was a conflict of interest. Just an interesting tidbit that he just felt really bad for May. Now, May was then brought in for questioning about the whole thing, of course. And May would tell police that Benji, you know, he was having affairs in the past, but he was having an affair currently, but this affair was a little bit more serious. See, of course, Benji and May were very close, so Benji didn't hold any secrets from May. So May informed the police that Benji was seeing a gal named Rebecca Bliss, who was a former adult movie actress and former call girl. Rebecca and Benji had actually met 2 years prior, and they've been having an affair this entire time. So what started out as like, you know, having a little bit of fun on the side had actually started becoming a full-blown relationship. Benji had even set Rebecca up with a nice apartment to live in, and Narcy found out about it. She knew about these affairs through the years and everything, but again, this one was different because it went on for so long, and that concerned Narcy. So Narcy went so far as to, you know, go over to Rebecca's fancy new apartment and actually offer her $10,000 if she would just walk away from Benji. Rebecca refused, and Narcy told her, look, if I can't have him, no other woman in the world is going to have him. Narcy then, of course, became very concerned because she kind of saw the writing on the wall that it looked like Benji was going to divorce her to be with Rebecca. Now, the reason why this was a big deal and why Narcy did not want Benji to divorce her was, of course, the money. But there was a prenup in place that when they got married back in 1991, Benji had Narcy sign a prenup. And what the prenup stated was that if the marriage was to fail, Narcy would only walk away with about $65,000. And at the time that this whole thing was going on, Ben was worth anywhere from $6 to $10 million. She wasn't going to walk away with some puny payment amount. She wanted it all. Now, May would tell authorities that she suspected her mother was involved somehow in Benji's death, and that's actually what her mother and her fought about when her mother hit her with a crowbar. Now, 10 days after Benji's death, an anonymous letter would arrive at the police station, and it was written in Spanish. Now, in the letter, it stated that Narcy was responsible for Benji's death, but she had accomplices, and that she named a man named Cristobal. Now, Cristobal was actually Narcy's brother. Cristobal lived in Philadelphia, and authorities went to speak to him. Now, he, of course, denied any wrongdoing. Deny, right? Well, the problem is while they were at Cristobal's place talking to him, that there was a whole bunch of paperwork on this table. And as investigators were questioning Cristobal, they kept looking over at this documentation, and what it was a bunch of like wire transfers of money, both coming to him and then going out. So they actually asked him about the wire transfers, and Cristobal had this excuse. This was some significant money going in and out, like, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And one of the wire transfers went to a man named Alejandro Garcia. And this guy had a criminal record. So they went through the hotel security tapes. And what do they find? They find Alejandro, who is actually from South Florida, was in New York the day that Benji was killed. And the security footage from the hotel shows that Alejandro's almost like walking down the hallways, like he's casing the hotel. On the security tapes, there's also another man who was finally identified as Joel Gonzalez. And he was scoping out the hotel on the security tapes as well. So authorities then combed through like Narcy's and Cristobal's phone records, bank records, all of that. And what they determined is that Narcy, afraid that she was going to lose Benji and therefore lose millions of dollars, she went to her brother Cristobal for help. Cristobal had then hired Alejandro and Joel to help out with the situation. And that situation was they were going to kill Benji. So police tracked down Alejandro and Joel, and they were brought in for questioning. And even though in the initial, questioning, they kind of denied it, it did not take long for them to completely break down and tell the truth. And even though Alejandro and Joel were in separate interrogation rooms, they told the exact same story of what went down the day Benji was killed. And that story is that before Narcy left the room for breakfast, she had let Alejandro and Joel into the room by holding the door open. Now, at this point, authorities figured that's when, Narcy left to go get breakfast while her husband was beaten to death. However, Alejandro and Joel had said, no, Narcy stayed in the room and actually dictated to us what to do to Benji. And gouging his eyes out was her idea. That the whole process took about 2-3 minutes. And then everybody left the hotel room and Narcy went down to breakfast. So Benji was not alive when Narcy left that hotel room. So police, of course, put out a warrant for arrest for Narcy and Cristobal. But Alejandro kept talking, and he had something else to say. He also stated that he was hired to take out Bernice, Benji's mom. And he told that story, that he hid in the garage, and when she moved her car, she got out of the car and he hit her with a wrench. She then ran into the house where he continued beating her with the wrench. And that would explain all of the blood spots around the house. And that he finally killed her in the laundry room. So Narcy, Cristobal, Alejandro, and Joel were all taken into custody. And they were not only arrested for Benji's murder, but they were also charged with Bernice's murder as well. Now, a lot of people are like, why kill Bernice? Well, Bernice's net worth was a couple of millions also. So when she was killed, her will stated that Benji got everything. So Benji was worth about $6 million at the time, but after his mom was killed, Benji was now worth $10 million. So Narcy was so greedy that she wasn't satisfied with $6 million. She wanted the full $10 million. I mean, the level of greed here on Narcy, it's mind-blowing. I mean, hell, I get excited when I found a $20 bill in my winter jacket pocket the other day. So prosecutors were seeking the death penalty for Narcy and her brother Cristobal. Alejandro and Joel had signed a plea deal in order to avoid the death penalty and then testify against Narcy and Cristobal. Now, at the trial, it was stated that Narcy had a secret phone, and that's how she communicated with Cristobal and the other two men, and that they found that phone. and she used that phone to call Alejandro at 6:30 a.m. to tell them to come up to the room, that it was time. Now, Narcy and Cristobal pleaded not guilty, and of course the defense attacked the whole plea deal for Alejandro and Joel. They were questioning the credibility of their testimony. Then, out of nowhere, the defense then started pointing the finger at somebody else. They pointed the finger at Narcy's daughter, May, and Narcy 100% backed it up. And they tried to, dictate the story that actually May was responsible for Benji's murder and setting this all up and everything like that. And then she framed Narcy for everything. But there was just no evidence of this. May was very upset because she was like, no, I loved Benji. Then Alejandro poked holes in this story all over the place when he was on the stand, because he stated, that's not true, and I can prove it. And in the evidence, it showed that when Alejandro was actually arrested, he had a picture of May in his pocket. And, when they asked him, why do you have a picture of May in your pocket? He stated, because Narcy told me that May was next on the list to get rid of. And that if he wasn't arrested that day, May probably would have been dead that night. Can you imagine your mother taking out a hit on you? After, everything, Narcy and Cristobal were found guilty. They did not get the death penalty, but they got life in prison without the possibility of parole. It was later determined that that anonymous letter that was sent to the police station was actually written and sent by Narcy and Cristobal's other sister that, got wind of what was going on, or Cristobal told her. I don't know how she found out, but she was actually a good person, and she's like, oh no, this is not going to go down. So she's the one that wrote the letter and gave the police details on how to solve this case. Now, there was a lot of fighting a bit over Benji's, will and his final estate. But in the end, May did end up inheriting Benji's estate, and now she shares that with her two sons. Now, there was a Lifetime movie made about this called Beautiful and Twisted, and it starred Rob Lowe. It's pretty good because it comes from Rob Lowe as Benji kind of narrates his own story of what happened to him and how he felt. Now, remember Ben Sr.'s adopted son from his first marriage? That poor guy, he became this homeless drifter. And it wasn't until 2016, I think it was. I don't have it in my notes, but he actually came forward after he heard this whole story about, Benji being murdered and everything. He actually was entitled to, there was some money left over from his dad, Ben Sr.'s estate, and then his mom's estate. So he came forward to kind of claim that to get his life together. So I couldn't find any updates on him, but I hope he at least got the money that was owed to him. And I'm sad that he went from a life of luxury to a homeless drifter just because he wasn't a biological son. But that is our story on Ben Novack Jr. I would love to hear what you think in the comments down below. If you'd like to become a Feline friend, please hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to become a Feline fan, please hit that join button for special perks. I'm sorry I only had one cat on camera today. I had a staff meeting yesterday for my full-time job, and there was cats everywhere. They kept running in front of me. They kept jumping on my keyboard. But of course, when you want them on camera, they don't want to be on camera. So, all right, everybody, have a Merry Christmas. I will not be doing a video next week. I need a break, but we'll be back in 2022 with all new true crime videos or mysteries. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.